There is one critical step that people often miss in understanding how to make sure the retirement nest egg lasts for a lifetime. In this video, I'm gonna cover that common mistake and share the first step to avoiding running out of money too early. Now this one's near and dear to my heart, right? Because the whole reason I became a financial advisor, the real inspiration for me was my dad. You know, growing up, my dad would say things like, what do you think I am, made of money? Money doesn't grow on trees, you know? Like, I'm gonna work until I'm dead. And the thing is, it wasn't like my dad didn't save. In fact, he was the ultra saver. I mean, this guy saved everything. He taught me to save everything. He taught me to be cheap. I mean, so dang cheap that it was really ridiculous. I mean, it was horrible trying to grow up in that environment, especially when you're a kid that wants to have those cool little, you know, Nike shoes. You want those Air Jordans. And then your dad says, no, these $20 Converse, the high tops, this is the way to go, right? So, I mean, I was raised in that kind of environment of scarcity, right? So anyways, you know, hearing him say that to me my entire life, that's what drove me to becoming a financial advisor later on, because I wanted to know what those secrets were. And so as you become a financial advisor, of course, as you see here, financial advisors are paid to sell you crap, not really to help you make money, right? And so what they really do is they're just selling you retirement plans, usually just mutual funds, insurances, things like that. Well, his fear was, of course, he was gonna run out of money or never be able to retire. So when I sat down with him and he said, Chris, what else can I do? You know, I looked at his finances and I said, Dad, I don't know. Honestly, with the money you've got here, even though you've done everything possible, saving your 401ks and doing everything, you're gonna run out of money in 5 years. It's not gonna last. And even worse, if you actually go off the rule that we as financial advisors taught, it would even be less than that. He wouldn't be able to live off enough. So just knowing what his expenses were, he would only have 5 years and he'd have to die. And so my dad said, what's the answer? And I said, I don't know. I honestly don't know what to tell you. And this is what really got me to question everything I was doing as a financial advisor, because maybe what I was teaching wasn't gonna work. Not just for him, because if he had done everything right, even had paid his house off early, he was debt-free, he had saved everything in his 401k, maybe it's not gonna work for my other clients too. And that got me on the journey, on this path. And it really got me to question what I taught as a financial advisor, because here's one critical mistake that you're often taught, is that everybody talks about the 4% rule. Now, if you haven't heard what that rule is, they try to tell you that whatever money you save in your retirement accounts, you can live on 4% and you shouldn't run out of money. Now, even as a financial advisor, we all question that number. We said, well, is that really enough? And by the way, if the younger you are, the lower that number needs to be. Just so you know, Wall Street Journal just came out in 2021 and said, 4% rule doesn't work. It's really more like a 3% rule. And like I said, if you're younger, that's probably more like a 2% rule. So here's the problem, is that if you have this retirement account, say you save up $1 million in this retirement account, and you're like, yes, I'm a millionaire. I'm gonna like shave my head bald and call myself Daddy Warbucks because I'm rich, right? I should have my own personal butler if I'm a millionaire, shouldn't I? You know, I should have my private jet? No, not at all, because if you have a retirement account with $1 million, and say you go on that 3% rule, that means you're living on $30,000 a year. $30,000, that you're retiring as a millionaire below the poverty line. You're a broke millionaire, right? You don't even have enough to really do anything. That's before you pay taxes. You might live on maybe $2,000 a month if you're lucky, having $1 million. And that's the problem. Right now, the average 65-year-old has only about $300,000 or so in a 401k. Take 3% of that, you're living on less than $10,000 a year. That's not enough, right? And this is what everybody's worried about, because they don't want to run out of money, yet they don't have enough to really go there. They don't really have enough to make it. And so I'll tell you, I had a guy just recently, he's 52 years old, saving, and I kid you not, the guy's saving a couple $100,000 a year into his retirement accounts and all other savings, because you can't even put that much money in most retirement accounts. So he's been packing away all this money he can, about $200,000 a year. He's saved up at this point $3 million. Now, the thing is, he wants to live on $500,000 a year. It's not, for him, it's not just about what he needs to live on. He wants to have more than enough to live on. He wants freedom. He's like, I want $500,000 a year to live on. What did his financial advisor say? He didn't say, good job on the $3 million. He said, that's first step. If you keep saving the way you are, maybe by the time you're 65 in 13 years, you can actually be able to retire. And he told him, you're gonna have to pretty much quintuple the amount of money he has. And I told him, I said, that he's based on the 4% rule, and he's based on no inflation, right? Because of course we know that inflation doesn't really exist ever, like every day it exists, right? We know that inflation is a huge issue. I told him, I said, in all truth, you're gonna have to save up really till you're about 70 years old using his method if you're gonna pull out the 3% rule. And he said, Chris, that is not what I want. I'm 52, I feel great, I feel like this is the best time of my life. How can I retire now? And retire in a way that I will never run out of money. And I said, here's how you do it. Because this is what I learned. After I quit being a financial advisor, I realized that the answer did not lie in the typical retirement nest egg. That doesn't work. Trying to live on mutual funds, and that's if the market doesn't go down. That's what happened to my dad. By the way, right after I talked to him, of course, we had Y2K, we had the Great Recession, the market went down. He had to delay his retirement 15 more years. 15 years from when it was at Y2K. He was in his 70s before he finally was able to retire, and that's only because he was forced into retirement due to health concerns. That he wasn't even truly ready yet. So he's not in a place where he could say, hey, I'm financially free. No, that didn't happen. Because again, the retirement accounts don't work, and if the market goes down, what are you gonna do then? Just postpone your retirement till longer? Because hey, you're in it for the long haul, as the financial advisors love to remind you. That's not what we want. So instead, what we did with this guy who's in his 50s, we said, let's focus on passive income, generating passive income outside of the stock market, where you don't worry about market swings and worry about the market tanking, and then you have to delay your retirement another 5, 10, 15 years. Instead, we said, let's get outside of that stuff. And we went into things like real estate investing. Here's the great thing, is that even with that $3 million, guess how much you can create per year? Not $90,000 like the financial advisor says, and then he has to pay taxes on that. No, we can actually do $300,000 a year or more with that $3 million. So over $300,000 a year, and we can even get some tax breaks on that money too. Way different life. Imagine, some of you might say 90,000 a year is awesome, right? But imagine if you had saved a couple $100,000 a year to then live on 90,000 a year. Why would you do that? That sounds ridiculous, right? That's what most people are doing right now. The answer is to do what financial advisors will never recommend, because why? They're only paid to sell you crap. They're not paid to make you money. They're paid to sell you stuff that they get commissions on. The things they don't get paid for are things like alternative investments, things like real estate investing, things like investing in oil and gas, land, things like apartment buildings, self-storage units, franchises even. There's so many things you can invest in outside of the stock market world and make so much more money doing. But again, we don't know about it. Why? Because they're not paid to tell you that stuff. In fact, their licenses will restrict them from ever telling you about it, because it'll tell them, hey, you're not allowed to even talk about this stuff. So that's the thing, is that you need to be able to focus on passive income where you can make at least a 10%, not live on 3%. That's the key thing here. That is the rule. So to recap, it's not about living on 2 or 3% a year. That is the long, painful, and really, as I found in my own experience, even for everybody who's done things right, like my own father, who did everything right, but he invested the way that financial advisors recommended, he couldn't truly retire financially free. You have to do something different. And it's just like, you guys ever watched the Seinfeld episode, it's called Opposite George, where George Costanza, if you've ever watched it, George Costanza is basically a loser, right? Nothing goes right in that guy's life, except for one episode. One episode, he took Jerry's advice, where Jerry said, well, if every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right. So for that one episode, George Costanza did everything right, by doing everything wrong. He actually did the opposite. He actually was truthful about himself, that he lived in his apartment with his parents, that he still lives with his parents, and he's at home, and he works a crappy dead-end job, and then he gets the girl of his dreams doing that. Just by ordering a different sandwich. He ends up getting the job of his dreams just by doing the opposite of what he would normally do. If you think about it, financial advising and what financial advisors have taught for years has not worked. So why would we keep doing the same thing? You'd be better off to do the opposite. And that's what you want to do, is do the opposite, focus on passive income and cash flow versus trying to save up and hoping that the market smiles on you with just the right timing, and then you can live on that whopping 2 or 3%. That's the key thing we want to stay away from. So if you like this video, check out how to achieve financial independence and retire early, and comment below. Tell us your experience. Has your financial advisor sucked? Have you been saving those accounts? Are you investing for passive income? Share with us your experiences.